Have you ever felt super uneasy in your space all of a sudden, like something just wasn't right? Like somebody was watching you, or you heard your steps just a little bit faster when you walk by certain rooms? Well, I wanted to tell you about a time when I moved into this house with my kids. I hadn't been divorced too long, so this was such a big accomplishment for me, and I was so excited to be moving into this house. And we moved in and settled in. I painted, we made it our own, and it was a few weeks, everything was fine. And then every night between like 2 and 4 a.m., I would hear this ting, and I was like, what is that? And I would get up and I would research and try to see where it was coming from. And if you have those mom ears, you can almost like envision what made the noise and where it's coming from. And so in my mind, it was coming from the kitchen, and it sounded like someone had taken a spoon and just like tapped the lights that hung down over the island. And this happened like every night. And I would go and I would stand there and I would listen to see if it was going to do it again, and it wouldn't. So I'd go back to bed. And this went on for like 3 weeks. And then things just started to escalate. My cat started acting super weird, and it didn't want to go into certain rooms, and it would hiss at things that weren't there. And I thought, this cat's nuts. Like, what's wrong with this cat? And then I started hearing voices, and they were so muddled, like I couldn't make out what they were saying. It wasn't a whisper. It's hard to explain. It was like if someone were talking way in the distance. Like, they weren't whispering, but I couldn't understand what they were saying. And I would get up and I would go check my kids' room, because I would think maybe they were on the phone with a friend when they weren't supposed to be, or they were watching a video, and they would be sound asleep. So I'd go back into my room, and this went on for a few weeks. And then one night I woke up because it felt like somebody had walked into my room. Like if a little kid walks into your room and they're standing there and you just instinctively know that somebody's there. And so I woke up and I looked at the foot of my bed, and there's a dark shadow. And I tried to focus in on it, thinking that it was one of my kids that walked in the room, and it just disappeared. And I thought, oh, I must have been dreaming, like just go back to sleep. I brushed it off. I rationalized it like it was nothing. And so these type of things just kept going on. So I ended up reaching out to a psychic medium, and she did a distant Reiki treatment on my house. And that seemed to like calm things down. But the night before she did this, it was like all hell broke loose. Like whatever was in that house knew that I was about to do something to try to get rid of it. And the tinging in the kitchen, the voices got a little bit louder, like to where they, would wake me up. And at one point, like I felt like something was trying to pull off my blankets and even tugged on my foot. And I was like, what in the hell is going on? Like, it was freaking me out. So I made it through the night with very little sleep. And the next day she called me to tell me that she had finished the Reiki treatment. And she said, you had a really rough night last night, huh? And I said, how did you know? And she said, well, I started tapping into you in your home last night, and I could feel the energy in that house was very negative. And she said, it's not actually the house, it is the land that it's sitting on. Like some really bad stuff happened on that land. And so she said she did the Reiki treatment, but I would have to continue to do things to keep that energy out of that house. And so that's when I went down a rabbit hole. I ended up actually getting my Master Reiki certificate, and I went down a rabbit hole of protection. And some of the things that I used, of course, one of the things that everybody knows about is sage and Palo Santos. I would use that like every week. And then I also bought like some salt rocks and black tourmaline and put those like in key areas, the entryways in my bedroom. I bought my kids like black tourmaline necklaces, and I would play off of YouTube. I would just play like singing bowls and frequencies that are supposed to disrupt the energy in the house.